that I can replay it for people later. So welcome to this evening's session on how to rebuild a Toastmasters club. I can see we've got a few people here, so that's excellent. We've got more people joining as we go, but they can catch up as we go along. This evening, the purpose of the session is to essentially walk through what some of the mechanics are of rebuilding a Toastmasters club, and to talk about some of the resources, the coaching program, so that people are aware of what some of the qualifications are for being involved in coaching and being coached. If you're a club that's looking for a coach, this session will talk a little bit about the process of rebuilding a club and be probably of more interest to coaches. But if you're interested, we can have a chat later and get in touch with me through my email address, cgd@d99tm.org, and we can have a chat one-on-one about your club and how we get you on the road to recovery. Now, this evening, as I said, we're going to talk about how to rebuild a Toastmasters club. So the first thing I want to talk about a little bit is why are clubs rebuilt? Well, if you think about it, there's a fairly simple formula in terms of a healthy club, and that is healthy membership plus quality programming will equal a healthy club. So what happens is that equation gets out of whack because you lose membership and you start to see your numbers faltering. Quality programming tends to fall by the wayside because you've got people doing 2 and 3 jobs in the meetings, and ultimately what ends up happening is that healthy club then turns into a club that's struggling and having a hard time putting on a good meeting and attracting new people. In the end, the whole process is about meeting the needs of the members. And so we have to find a way to get the club back on track and help it to rebuild itself. So why does a club need to be rebuilt? Clubs go through phases in their life cycle, and this chart sort of shows 3 phases of a club. So in phase 1, a club is new, and I call that the honeymoon phase. And that's the phase where, there's a lot of motivation, there's a lot of enthusiasm, but not a lot of experience. The experience starts to grow as time progresses. And eventually, as you get out of that phase into phase 2, you start to mature. Now you've got some experienced members, and when people show up at your meetings, you welcome them, and if they join, they're assimilated fairly quickly, and they get into the program, and they start to grow. But at some point in the life cycle of a club, you will probably see in some cases that a club will hit phase 3, which I call the decline. And that's kind of a point where things become a little bit stagnant, and the members start to, be content with the status quo. They've lost some members, and it could be for a number of different reasons. It could be, if you're in a corporate club, it could be layoffs. It could be in a community club that people just move away or their interests change and you've lost members. But ultimately what happens is you lose members and you get into a situation where you start to have a membership slide, and as the membership slides, you see that decrease in quality of the meetings. So really, that's kind of the point where you start to fall off, and if you don't do something about it, people that show up at your club are going to walk in and they're going to see the quality of the meetings, they're going to see what's going on, and they won't join. And as you'll see, your membership will start to decline. You'll really see things starting to go downhill. And if you don't do something about it, you will get yourself to a point where you'll throw your hands up in the air and say, okay, I can't do this anymore. I can't cope with this. I'm not getting what I need out of it. And ultimately, again, remember that as the members that are left behind, if your needs aren't being met, then that's challenging as well. So at that point, you need help, and you need to start really refocusing, because you ultimately want to get back to that maturity phase where you've got experienced members, and you've got people coming in who are seeing a quality program and are interested in staying and becoming members of your club. So enter club coaches. When a club gets to the point where they're in trouble, and we'll talk a little bit about what the requirements are for that, we have a program available in Toastmasters called the Club Coach Program. So who is a coach? Well, a coach is a Toastmaster They're not a member of the club that's in trouble. They are new to that club, so they don't come to the club with any, baggage per se in terms of being involved in the club. They are a counselor. They're there to help and counsel the club and show them, hopefully, how to correct what's going on and turn it around. And they are a source of knowledge and ideas. Now, they may be a Toastmaster with varying levels of experience, but as a coach, they have access to resources and a pipeline to other people that can help to give them extra experience. So again, they're just people like you. They're Toastmasters like everybody else, but they're people that are coming in from outside of the situation. So hopefully they can give a fresh view or a fresh look at what's going on and help to assess the problems and help to figure out how it's going to change. So from a coach's perspective, their work is to, first of all, build a rapport with the leaders and the members. So they want to come in and they want to get to know people. They want to start participating in the club, do what they can to sit back and sort of observe what's going on and be objective, assess what's going on in the club, observe, analyze, and recommend solutions. So again, they're not, just like any other club, they're not per se the experts on what makes a Toastmasters club tick, but they have opinions, and they, just like any evaluation, you can accept or reject the opinions. You're hopefully going to get some good advice from the people that come into this situation, that they can give you some look at it from an objective outsider viewpoint and give you some good information that might help you to turn things around. They're there to help develop a plan with goals for improvement. So they're there to actually work with the executive and the members to figure out what's going on and then develop a plan on how to turn it around and how to rebuild that club and make it strong again. They will stick around to help implement that plan and ensure that the changes are performed by the club officers and members as much as possible. So they're there to be a part of the club or to participate in what's going on in the club. In some cases, they may even join. They can't join beforehand. We'll talk about that in the next slide, but they can't, once they have been assigned as a coach, they can join the club. They can become a part of that club, and they can be a part of what making that club successful. They're there to instill enthusiasm, loyalty, and a sense of responsibility for the club's future. And I guess that's really sometimes what happens, is sometimes the members just kind of lose that vision of what the club can be and what it can actually provide for all of the members. And they start to lose that vision. And I guess a coach can be there to kind of remind you and reinvigorate you as to what the vision of the club is and what your purpose is in being there and how you can achieve that purpose, which is essentially to meet the needs of members, to help them grow, to help them achieve success as they work their way through the program. So the Club Coach program essentially is set up to allow up to 2 coaches to be appointed by district. So either myself as Club Growth Director or Lorraine Wheatley, who is the district director, can assign up to 2 coaches. Those 2 people, as we said, they cannot be a member. They can join after they're appointed, but they cannot join before they are appointed. The club has to have 12 or less members in order to qualify for a coach. And I know that seems kind of interesting that they wait until that point, but again, this is a program that's designed to help a club that is in dire circumstances, that they are hurting. They've lost their membership down to 12 people or less. We always encourage that clubs try to maintain at least 20 members to maintain a healthy club environment. The key in this is that the coach actually receives or has the potential to receive an award out of this or reward from doing this process. So it's not like they're coming into it and they're doing it out of the goodness of their hearts, although we would hope that they are doing it partially out of the goodness of their heart and out of a motivation to see a club, succeed and rebuild itself. But one of the things about the coaching program is that the coaches can receive credit towards their Advanced Leader Silver, which is part of what you need on the road to getting your DTM. So a lot of people, when they're working their way through the program and working towards getting a DTM, this is one of the things that can be a major milestone in doing that. And so another way to do that is to start a club and be a sponsor of that club or mentor a club, but this is the other way that you can get credit towards your ALS and achieve your DTM to successfully coach a club. So the key thing that I will point out for people that are interested in coaching is that you cannot do it alone. Even if there's two of you, you can't possibly do everything there is. And if you think about it, if you do it all for them, when you leave, if you leave, then all of the things that you've done walk out the door with you. So it's important that you get to know the members in the club, you participate in the club, you set a good example, and you gain their respect and trust. But ultimately, it's your job to show them how to do it for themselves. Because again, you cannot just do it all for them, because if you do that, the minute you leave, if you don't stick around and stay as a member, you have basically walked all of that experience and all of that work out the door, and you'll probably see that that club will be back in that same situation within a year or two, because the club members that you've added to the club and the strength that you've added to the club, if they don't continue to practice the things that they need to practice to maintain that strong membership and to keep people interested, that membership is going to drop off again, and they'll be back in exactly the same situation with 12 or less members and wondering what happened. So as a coach, in order for you to be successful, you have to work with the members. You recruit them as part of your team. You're there to help them discover what it is that needs to be done, but ultimately you have to show them the way and lead them to the path that needs to be walked in order to restore the club to its successful status. So once you're assigned as a coach, the thing that we would really encourage you to do is to get in touch with the president and arrange for a meeting with the executive committee. As a coach, you become an extension really of the executive committee. You're working with the executive committee to help formulate plans on how you're going to attack the situation that's in front of you. So you're going to discuss the purpose of the club coach program. You want to make sure that they understand that you're there not to take over, but to be a supplement to them, to help them to understand how they can bring to bear the resources that they need to rebuild the club and make it successful again. You're there to offer your assistance and ask for their support. It's really key that you get buy-in from the executive. One of the things that as a club growth director that I'm trying to do this year is I want to make sure that I don't just say, okay, go coach this club, because I think that's setting you up for failure. I really encourage that if you are going to do this, that you talk to the club that you're interested in coaching and build a bit of a rapport before I even attempt to assign you as a coach, because the last thing I want is for you to show up on the doorstep and say, hey, I've been assigned as your coach, and the club says, who the heck are you? Take a hike. That would be a bad situation, because already you're on a bad foot, and you've created a situation where we may not be able to actually rescue that, because now if the executive has got their back up and not willing to accept you, then your job is that much harder. So I want to try and make sure that we pair people with clubs that they've chatted with, that they've built a bit of a rapport, and that there's an acceptance there that if you show up on their doorstep and say, hi, I'm your club coach, they're going to be somewhat accepting of that. You want to talk with the leadership about their perception of the club's strengths and weaknesses. So again, they're the experts, they've been there, so maybe they have some insights as to what the issues are. They can help to give you some information that will be helpful. Then you want to work with them to formulate an action plan. So it's really sit down with the executive. And again, I can't stress enough, you can't do it for them. You need to formulate a plan that includes all of their efforts to ensure that when you go or when you're done, this plan has taught them what they need to know to be successful, so that you can then walk away and hopefully leave a club that will be healthy and will survive. You also want to set up a continuous review of the progress being made. So it's just like any situation where you do planning. It's great to make a plan and to have that plan set up, But if you don't continually monitor your progress and make adjustments as you go, you're likely setting yourself up for failure. So again, you've got a plan. Make sure you set up a way for you to continuously review that plan. And I would suggest that, as a sort of an adjunct to the executive, when the executive has meetings, and if they aren't having those, you should encourage them to have those. Do a review of what the progress is against the plan so that you understand where you're at. Again, it's an important role, and it's important that you engage with your executive of the club that you're trying to coach to ensure that they will set a plan in motion that will help to get them to where they need to be. So as a coach, we've already kind of talked about some of this. You kind of have to walk a bit of a tightrope, because you're there as an external expert, someone from outside who's there to be objective and look at what's going on. But at the same time, you have to realize it's their club. And ultimately, you can suggest and you can recommend and you can provide a good example, but ultimately it's up to the club to take that information and use it and build a plan that is going to work. So for you, it's important to remember that you are there to help them rebuild their club. You're not there to rebuild the club yourself, do all the work. You're there to help them. So always stress that you're there to help them. You're not there to take over, you're there to help. All team members have to be in support of the rebuilding effort. So it's really important that you work with the members and the executive to get buy-in on what you're trying to do. If they're not buying in, it's going to make the job that much tougher, because you can bring guests to the meetings, but if they don't change their attitudes or the way they do things, they're just going to drive them away. So you're not going to be successful in building a new club or building the club back up. I would avoid telling them what to do or criticizing them. So again, you're kind of acting as an evaluator to a certain extent. So you don't want to walk in and say you should do this and you should do that and you're doing this wrong. I think that's the easy way to get their backs up and to get them to basically reject everything that you're trying to do. You want to gently guide them towards achieving club excellence. So again, engage them in working on getting a plan in place, understanding where they need to work, and work towards that. And ultimately be optimistic, friendly, and positive. Again, you're trying to work with these people, and they're volunteers, you're a volunteer, everybody's a volunteer. You need to work with them, you need to get them on your side and get them working with you so that you can be successful. So one of the first things you'll try to do as you engage with the club is you're going to try to do an assessment. I would refer you to the tool that's available from Toastmasters International called the Coach's Troubleshooting Guide, and it's available at toastmasters.org/clubcoachguide. I've attached a copy of that to this meeting, so you'll probably see that in the content for this meeting there's actually the ability to download a couple files, and there'll be one of the files there is this Club Coach Guide. What you want to do is attend a few meetings and get a sense of what the club is like. Use the troubleshooting guide, and it's essentially a checklist that you go through, and it allows you to rate the club in various different areas, and it's very much, I think, aligned with kind of the moments of truth, looking at how the club is approaching the various aspects of what it does, quality programming, membership drives, etc. So you want to take a look at those various aspects, and you want to do a rating of the club and use that as a guide to what you need to do in order to be successful. So be objective in your rating, but be fair. So it's not going to do anybody any good if you go through and you kind of sugarcoat your ratings and give them the benefit of the doubt and say, oh, I think they just had a bad couple meetings. Be objective and be fair, fill it out, but try to, again, be objective. Don't be harsh, critical, etc. Use the tool to give you a fair assessment of where they're sitting and what they're doing right now. If you can do that with the tool, then that'll give you a good picture. One of the things that we recommend you do too is keep that as a tool that you will come back to as you progress. So do the assessment after you've been to 2 or 3 meetings, get a picture of where you're at right now. In a couple months, go back and redo the assessment again and see whether your scores have improved or not, because that can be an indication as to whether your action plan is actually working. If you don't see any change in any of the areas that you were concerned about, perhaps you need to rejig your plan and look at how you can make those changes in those areas to be able to be effective as a coach. So the assessment is kind of an important first step for you, but it's an important ongoing step as well, is to make sure that you are assessing as you go and checking up the progress and making sure. And if you see continual progress in the assessment, share that with the club and say, hey, you know what, you guys are doing fantastic. You've made some changes. You're actually seeing some growth in these areas. That's important for you to actually share with the club. Jehun just shared a link saying that it should be that. You know what, Jehun, if you actually click on this link, it works. It was the link that was in the Club Coaches Guide, or in the How to Rebuild a Toastmasters Club Guide, so it could be the other one. I just clicked on the link and that was the one that was in the thing. I'm just gonna, okay, so your action plan, when you think about it, typically membership decline is just a symptom of an underlying problem. So when you come into a club where you see reduced membership is really the symptom of something, right? It's usually, it could be that there's, the real cause was, oh, well, we laid off half our staff, so there went half our members. So perhaps it's just a case of, okay, well, life was good and they didn't have to do recruiting, and then they laid off half the people, so now we've lost half our membership. So now you just have to teach them how to go back out and re-recruit people to come back into the club. It could be a personality, right? It could be somebody in the club that is causing the issue. So if that's that's one of the things you'll have to do through your assessment, is recognize and try and understand why they have reduced membership. I mean, reduced membership is the reason you're there, because now they're at 12 members, they're in trouble. How do you rebuild and work without knowing what the underlying cause is? So your action plan has to you have to take into account what is the underlying cause of what's going on, and if there's 2 of you there, hopefully you can figure it out and spot out. But if there's only 1 of you there, you might have to sit down and talk with the area director and maybe get a sense of how they see it, and use that information then to sort of build your action plan. Your goal should always be to build towards quality, effective meetings, right? So when you're having quality, effective meetings, members are giving speeches, they're getting evaluations, they're learning, they're growing, and life is good. When you have low membership, it's hard to put those on, so you have to figure out an action plan as to how you do that. One of the things might be that as an external person, you might be asking other Toastmasters from other clubs or your club that you came from to come and help fill out some of the roles to make the meetings more effective and more quality. You want to build a climate that is welcoming to guests and teach the members there how to turn the guests into members. A lot of people get stuck on this idea of, we've got to get members, we've got to get members. Well, you know what? The first step is you got to get guests. And if you get guests and you treat them right and you give them a good quality show, that's how you're going to turn them into members. And then once you've got them as members, it's to continually remember that you have to engage them. You have to make them feel like they're welcome, like they're part of the club, and they have to see the path of growth for themselves. And if you can do that, then you'll start to see your club rebuild. And again, I warn you in your action plan to make sure that it doesn't all hinge on what you do. It has to include what everybody's going to do in order to be successful. So in terms of tools that are available to you, there's a couple tools that you can use to actually help you out. One is there's a document, as I said, there's 2 documents linked to this meeting if you can figure out how to download them. There's if you click on the little present icon, the one that looks like a screen, there should be content one there that talks about content, and from there you can actually download the 2 PDF files that I've put up there. One of them is How to Rebuild a Toastmasters Club, which is a step-by-step guide that takes you through the process of what is coaching and what is your goal and what do you have to do to be successful. And then the other one is that Club Coaches Troubleshooting Guide, which is essentially a checklist for going through and doing an evaluation of the club to figure out where they need help and where they need to emphasize. The other tools that you have available to you is, of course, your district team. So you've got an area director who works directly with that club, and they are the liaison with Toastmasters International. And then you can go up the chain from there to the division director, to me, the club growth director, the program quality director, who can help you with ideas around quality programming and training, because as you get people, perhaps adding new club officers, you might need help with getting training resources. District director, who ultimately is responsible for the whole district, but they are a resource person as well that you can go to and talk to. These are some of the tools that as a coach you have available to you that you can use in your journey to rebuild the club. So I'll just kind of wrap up here, and then that leaves time for questions. I know we're about 30 minutes in, and I said I would try and talk for a while and then leave some time open for questions. Clubs do occasionally need help to rebuild, and it's a situation that over time you may see them go through this cycle multiple times. We hope that it doesn't happen. We'd like to see them get to a point of maturity and stay there for several years. But in some cases, clubs seem to go through this ebb and flow every 3 to 4 years, where they lose a bunch of members and they get help and they get a coach and they rebuild back to maturity and they're good for 3 or 4 years, and then maybe they're back there again. The goal, the club coach program provides a way to get help to get the club back on its feet. Sometimes when you get down to 12 members or less, and in some cases we've got clubs that are down to 8 members, it almost seems hopeless. It seems like you're really struggling to get back on your feet. So the club coaching program is a way to give you some help. Now, we're looking for people, and again, if you are people who are interested in coaching, I need to know that, and I need to be able to get you linked up with clubs. When I put out my report at the district conference, I actually put out a list of all the clubs, and if any of you are interested, I can send you a list of that report, and it has a list of clubs that need coaches, and you can peruse through there and see if there's any that you're interested in being involved in. The key thing is finding the root cause and working with the executive. Again, I cannot stress strongly enough, your job is not to do it for them. And in fact, if you do it for them, you're probably going to see that they're going to get back to that healthy level, and then they'll probably fall right off again within a year or so. The goal is to create a healthy and self-sustaining club. And so as a club coach, that really should be your goal, and what you seek to do is to get that club to the point where they are rebuilding. They've rebuilt all the processes of a healthy club. They're recruiting members, they're putting on quality programs so that they can get that formula back in balance where they have healthy membership, quality programs, and that equates to a healthy club. If they can do that, then hopefully they're going to be on the right road, and they'll be healthy for many years to come. It's not uncommon for clubs to go through this ebb and flow and need this help. There's nothing to be ashamed of when it happens, but when it does happen, we want to make sure we get the right people and the resources there to help them out. All right, so I'll open the floor to questions. I've got everybody muted right now, so I'm just going to go and I'm going to say unmute. So if there's any questions, I'll let people sort of throw them out there on the floor. And I just see there was Jonathan posted that my link works too. It should. It was the one that was in the document that was provided, the How to Rebuild a Toastmasters Club. One thing I just noticed that I forgot to say too is, how does a coach become successful? That would be a good question that I'm sure somebody's going to ask me, right? A coach becomes successful when a club becomes distinguished either by the end of the year that they're appointed in or by the end of the year following. So you've got a maximum of 2 years to do your thing and instill the processes that would help to rebuild the club. But your job, and you're successful, and you'll actually get credit for having coached the club when they are a distinguished club. So in a case of a club that has 12 members, if you were able to add 5 members to that club, plus have them achieve at least 5 DCP plan goals, that would be enough for them to be distinguished, and you would be considered a successful coach. I would love to think that a successful coach would be someone who would take them all the way back to 20 members, but that's maybe ambitious if they're sitting at 8 members and you rebuild them back to like 15 members or so, and they actually achieve distinguished status. Then that might be as good as it gets for that cycle. But hopefully by then you've got the processes in place that will help them to be successful and keep building. All right, I unmuted everybody, but maybe I have to go in and nope. Everybody's showing on here is muted still, so I'm just looking at especially the people that are on the phone.
They just have to unmute themselves, Glenn, assuming you can hear me now.
Yeah, I can hear you, Jonathan. Most of you are muted, so if you unmute, I don't know how the phone people unmute themselves, but...
*6.
I'm just trying to see if I can unmute them. I muted you, and now I have to figure out how to unmute you, but I don't know how.
*6, I press on my end. I'm supposed to be heard. Can you hear me?
Okay, yeah, I can hear you. *6 is what you did? Okay.
That's what I did. Thank you.
All right, so if you're on the phone and you want to be unmuted, just press *6. That makes sense because that's a pretty standard command. So, questions? Comments?
Just for the people on the computer, the blue microphone icon on the bottom of your screen with a line through it, if you click that, that'll unmute you if you're on the computer.
Yep.
Okay, there you go. Quick question here. As an area director, what would be the process that I would go if I have a club that is in a position that needs coaching?
Well, chances are, Lloyd, we know about it because I have a list that has all the clubs, and I've created that list and sent it out. And I don't know if you've gotten a copy of it. It was in my report, and I don't know, they haven't posted my report yet. The key thing would be to, if you know anybody who would be interested in coaching, is to sort of try and get them hooked up with that club and have that conversation and start it. So, like I said, I don't want to send somebody there and say, go coach that club until they've actually talked to the executive and sort of made that first introduction and said, are you open to, coaching, and are you open to having me come? So it would be nice if that person that is interested in coaching would make a visit to the club first, make the introductions, and if you're able to help them with that introduction, that would be fantastic. Once that happens and things are good to go, then I need to know about it because I have to fill out a form and send it into Toastmasters International saying, please assign this person as a coach.
Okay. Yeah, I see Mark Neckrack on here. He's a member of one of the clubs I'm talking about here. Mm-hmm. The main issue with that club is it's kind of remote, so it's kind of hard. It would be kind of hard, I think, to get people mm-hmm. to make that commitment to head out to Drayton Valley.
Yep.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Oh, perfect. Yes, I am Mark here. We don't necessarily need somebody to come out all the time. We had Mark Hain out rebuilding our club, and he did a fantastic job. He took us from 1 member to up to 12. We have since reduced to 8, but we definitely could use more of a coaching than anything, even if it is more by email and telephone correspondence.
And one of the things that is possible now, Toastmasters International has kind of opened the door a little bit on virtual membership. And at the same time, there is a bit of tolerance for virtual coaching as well. So what I have been trying to do in some cases is say, well, if I can get you one coach that's in the area, can I get you another coach that comes in by phone or video conference occasionally and works with you, even if that's, they attend a meeting or something via Skype. But yeah, if we can find somebody to help you out, that can help you if I don't know if Mark has any appetite since he's been there before and knows the situation, but we can try and find somebody. The challenge is we have right now 60 clubs that are 12 and under. So it's just to find the people that we can match up with those clubs.
Wow.
Yeah, there's a lot of clubs out there that are 12 and under right now. So we need the resource. We need the other side of the resource, which is people who are willing to coach to be able to go into that situation. Any other questions?
This is Arlene in Grand Prairie.
Hi, Arlene.
What?
Two of the clubs in the Peace Country, one of the clubs doesn't have a newspaper anymore. And therefore the thought of having press releases, photos, when club recognizes members, all of that is lost. That opportunity is lost because the local newspaper does not exist.
Mm-hmm.
The other newspaper in the other community, Rycroft, really doesn't accept Toastmaster information unless it's a picture. They prefer to do the sports pages rather than an educational self-development article.
So
is now exiting.
So now what I would suggest there, Arlene, is if your newspaper is not amenable, there are other ways, and social media is a great way to do it. You can start to create a club presence on Facebook or on Twitter or places like that, and post some of those pictures yourself and stories about people being successful.
What do you want?
So I think that's another option. Is if in communities like that, I know a lot of people that live in those smaller communities, they use social media. I know I've got relatives back in small town Saskatchewan, and they use it almost like a public bulletin board where they're like, hey, has anybody got some of this, or anybody got any ideas on how to do this? So if a Toastmasters club participated in that community, they would start to maybe see some success in getting the word out there. And sometimes that's a big part of it, is just getting the word out there that, hey, we're here and we exist and this is what we do. So social media can be a big help. I know in the city, for clubs that are struggling, one of the tools that people have found really helps a lot is meetup.com. I don't know if a lot of people have heard of that before, but it's a website that's designed around helping people to link up with groups that are looking for participants. And so if you go on there, if you're looking for a dancing club, or you're looking for a hiking club, or a dog walking club, or in my case, I've found technical groups that I belong to on there. Toastmasters clubs have also gone on there. Now, the side of that's not great is it's not cheap. It runs you about $14, $15 a month. But if you're in a situation where you need members and you're in an urban area, it could be a great way to link up with people and get to the people that are interested in being involved and stuff. The number one thing, like, I'm involved in several clubs, and I've been to several clubs, and I just visited Lloydminster here a week ago, and their club, and they had guests show up, and they asked them, how did you find us? And they said, on the web. So the number one thing I could suggest for clubs that are struggling is to get some order of semblance, or some semblance of order around your internet presence and your marketing. Get your marketing in order, so to speak. And if you need help with that, that's another thing that a coach or someone, we can try and find you somebody. I know Mark Hain has done that in the past, where he's helped out clubs to get that going, and I know one of our area directors, Joan Petruk, is very good at that as well. Getting your presence, and it's easy to do for a Toastmasters club, because Toastmasters International provides a free website hosting service that allows you to set up a club presence. The only thing you have to do as a club is put content on it and keep it fresh and make it interesting, because that's the number one thing, is if they don't see fresh content and something that looks like you're actually doing stuff, then that's your first impression that they're going to get, is that you guys don't even care enough to update your website, so why should I visit your club? So that would be one thing I would suggest for clubs that are struggling, is just make sure you've got your marketing up to snuff, at least to the point of saying, I have a public website and I do keep it up to date with information about what's going on in my club and who's doing what, and recognition stories, all those kinds of things.
Another question, Glenn. We have Kakwa Club in Grand Prairie has two Facebook pages, and we want to get rid of the old one. We don't know how to do that. Can you help us with that?
Well, if you've got two Facebook pages, is the problem that the one of them you've lost the administration rights to it? Because if you have administration rights to it, you should be able to delete the page. Like if you've got admin rights, you can go on and there's a place where you go in and say, I want to delete that page. If you can even figure out who the administrators are of that old page and contact them and get them to do it for you. So yes, if you need some help there, I can try and help you out there. That was for Kakwa, right?
Yes.
Okay, I can take a look, but my advice would be to find someone who used to be an administrator, and that's easy enough. If you look at the old page, there should be a list of who's on there and who's an admin, and then try and get them to either grant you admin status so that you can go in and do it, or have them just delete the page for you. But that would be the simplest way, because otherwise the other option that I've heard of is that you could write a letter to Facebook, get it signed by your president, stating that yes, that is my page, that is our club's page, but we've lost all contact with everybody that was on there is gone, and we've got no administrators left, and nobody can't get a hold of anybody. And then they will then take a look at it, and if they believe you, they will delete the page. They'll help you out, but that's a longer process. The easier process would be to find someone who can do it for you. I got Carol Hebert was just posted that she said, yeah, we just figured out the admin of our Facebook page as they are listed on the page and asked them to give us admin rights, and we just messaged them on Facebook. So that's the easiest way. Find out somebody who is, and then get them to give you access or get rid of it for you. Mark was posting something here about, does anyone have the footnote of Mark Haynes' deadly sins of social media marketing? I don't have them. I attended his presentation, but I don't think they recorded it. So it might be something that would be a session that I could invite him to maybe come and do as a webinar, and then we can record it. There is definitely in Mark's message in his presentation, he talks about which different media platforms will get you to different people, what age groups tend to frequent different platforms, and the kinds of things that you need to do in order to stay relevant. And I think one of the big things is if you've got a page, post something on it, right? Make a commitment to keep the content on it fresh and keep stuff coming up there. Post some pictures, post some, articles about what you're doing, even if you just share information that you find off Toastmasters International website. Toastmasters International, if you go and look, they put out press releases all the time about neat new stuff that's going on. Take some of that stuff and post it on your webpage. Any other questions?
I was hoping I could make just a quick comment. I know
Sure.
This is something that that was really helpful to have, or will be helpful to have for a lot of clubs that are starting in social media, is make sure that you guys keep a master password list with the exec, because once you start getting into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different arenas in social media, and nobody knows what the passwords are to get in there to make updates as people leave the club or as executives change. One thing that I noticed when I came into our club was it took me almost a month to figure out how to get passwords reset and restructured so that I could just even go in and start working at getting posts up to our sites.
Yep, that's a good point, Robert. That's something that all clubs can learn from, is to make sure you've got a master password list somewhere that the executive has access to, and then they can ensure a smooth transition when they transition to a new club or new executive. Mark just said, "Wow." Something wowed him. So I would encourage you, if you haven't done so already and you're interested in rebuilding a club, take a look at the publication that's on Toastmasters.org. I've attached it here, but it's easy to find. If you go to Toastmasters.org and you search for Rebuild Club, you'll see the How to Rebuild a Toastmasters Club, a step-by-step guide. It's a PDF document that has approximately 15 pages in it, but it goes through a lot of the information that I talked about today, and it has links in it to the assessment tool, and it also talks in more detail about some of the things that you need to think about as a coach when it comes to getting the club back up and running. And I mean, it goes into things like meeting location. Is that do you look at that? Club programming, how are they doing? How are they treating their guests? Are people prepared? Are people focused on the distinguished club program? So are they actually? You'll know, if you know me at all, you'll know that I'm not focused on the points, but I'm focused on doing the things that it takes to get the points, right? So are they giving speeches? Are they being evaluated? Are people getting their competent communicator, advanced communicator, advanced competent leader, advanced leader designations? Are they progressing through the program and achieving things? Because that really is the earmark of a club that's helping their members to achieve and grow. Mark just posted, the wow was the password headache wowed him. Passwords can be fun. So I think take a look at that guide and go through it, and it'll give you some really good ideas and resources. And keep in mind that there are people out here that are able to help you if you need help. Talk to the area director for the club or if you're a club that's in trouble, talk to your area director. Know that we are focused on this. We have been crunching the numbers, and we do know that the clubs out there need help, and we are looking for coaches. So if you know anybody who's interested in coaching, please send them my way, because I can use all the people I can get my hands on, and we can find them things to do, and we can have them helping clubs to rebuild themselves back to strength. Ultimately, for us as a district, our strength is really not just in building new clubs. Our strength is in making sure that the clubs we have are strong as well. And so we're focused on and keeping track of how many clubs need help, and we're trying to find people to help them. But ultimately, it goes out to the membership and identifying the people who would be potential coaches, people that are been in Toastmasters for a few years, have some experience under their belt, looking for a new challenge. Hopefully, maybe have an eye on getting their advanced leader silver so that they can get their DTM, work towards their DTM. Because this can be another avenue, rather than, if they're not interested in going out and building a new club, this is another avenue that helps them to achieve that same credit towards that designation as well. So, all right. If there's no other questions, then I will.
Sorry, I just have one.
Oh, there we go. Mark's got a question again.
I'm just curious, is it common for someone to come out and help rebuild a club and for it to not quite get off the ground within a year or two? I mean, we had our club rebuilt from nothing about a year and almost 2 years ago now. They were down to one member. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, we live in a strange demographic. Drayton Valley is a transient town. People come and go a lot. I think part of our membership has been, part of our membership decline has been due to the failing economy. We've seen a lot of people just leave, and those that do remain here, they're very busy people. Mm-hmm. So I'm just, I'm wondering, is it I suspect that there might not have been, I guess maybe the lasting effect of having a coach out here. I mean, don't get me wrong, Mark Hain was a very charismatic person to have at our meetings, but it almost seemed like as soon as he was gone, the engagement just dropped a little bit.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing is, like, that's why I stressed very heavily that as a coach, you have to be very cognizant of not doing the work for the club. You have to make sure they're engaged in what goes on, so that when you back off, they aren't left standing there saying, well, he's gone now, so, oh well. The club needs to be engaged and start to rebuild that pride in ownership of the club and building the club to be successful. Now, that being said, I mean, in Mark's case, I mean, he went into a situation where you've got a community that, as you say, is transient. That could be, a big part of the contributing factor to why you're struggling for membership. And I mean, it's not like Mark as a coach can do anything about that, but he could help you, and a coach could help you come up with strategies on how you cope with that, and maybe ways to diversify your membership a little bit so that you're not as impacted by that. A lot of clubs get a coach and they rebuild, and then they're healthy for 3, 4, 5 years or more. Some clubs do have that habitual sort of, they get rebuilt, and then 2 years later they're back at the trough again looking for a new coach because they're in trouble again, right? And right now the economy, I think, has played a really large role in some of the difficulties that we're having. But I think the other part of it is that the lack of awareness of the Toastmasters program also plays a big part of it. I mean, yes, we've lost a lot of people, but if the people that were left were more aware of what we were doing and who we were, maybe that would help out as well. So we're focusing on that a bit this year too. We're going to start doing some advertising to try and get more people engaged in understanding what Toastmasters is.
Okay. I guess my only other question is, in regards to focusing on advertising at like the district and area levels, like obviously we're a small club. We have declined down to the 8-member level, I think. I checked. I think we were just at 8 members, so we're just there. Naturally, we don't have enough dues to really cover the costs of it, let's say advertising in like a newspaper or that sort of thing. How does the district level deal with that sort of thing?
Well, we put some budget aside. We actually we had funds available in the bank account, and we kind of looked at it, and we actually dipped into the surplus to get some money to spend on this. So what we're planning to do is do some targeted social marketing advertising, try and hit the demographics that Toastmasters would best benefit from, and get the word out about what Toastmasters is. So we're going to do a little bit of that just to get the name. I mean, if people are in Facebook and they start seeing, Toastmasters popping up on the right-hand side, we're hoping they'll eventually get curious and click on it and go actually see what Toastmasters is and start asking questions about, where can I find a club? The problem is that we don't have, an unlimited bucket of money. So it's not like we can take out television ads or TV, newspaper ads, full page newspaper ads or anything like that. I mean, if we did it in one location, we would be cheating everybody else, and we'd have burned all our money. Like, one thing we looked at was billboards. Well, when you think it through, I mean, billboards to be effective, in a city the size of Edmonton, you probably got to have 6 to 10 of them, and then they're not cheap. They're they're $1,000 a month, and you got to commit to have them for 2 or 3 months. So you could blow $10,000-$15,000 in 3 or 4 months in one city and not really have achieved much in terms of penetration. So we're going to try and do some targeted advertising on Facebook and Google ads and those kinds of things to see if we can raise some awareness that way.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, where I am, like, I just went through this week and started reposting our posters, and what we had up actually had been pulled down. So I'm pretty sure there hasn't been a single poster up in our town for a good 3 or 4 months. But mind you, with all the planning with our last club, Coach, I don't think what I'm kind of getting out of this is I don't think we quite compiled a long-standing or a plan that we could go back to, review, and say, okay, we did this, we didn't do this. So it's been really insightful for me because I think that's the number one thing that we need to do.
Yeah, well, as a club, it's important that you kind of buy into the process and that ultimately, if a coach can come and do all the work for you, but then what's left when they leave, right? You guys need to internalize it, and I mean, a lot. Sometimes the problem is you just don't have that recruitment attitude that you're always bringing guests out, you're always bringing people out just to check out the program and see what it's all about.
Yeah, and I mean it's like and like I emailed Lloyd and Lorraine. We've found it hard even with new. How would I say, new guests, just to make it look like there's a presence. We kind of got the feeling with the last couple of guests we had that it didn't look as though we had enough of a presence for them to be interested.
Yep. So there are other strategies, and if you want to talk about some of those, like for example, one strategy that clubs do sometimes when they get low numbers is they look at doing a speechcraft, right? And so if you've got enough members there to be able to put on a quality program and you find 8 to 10 people who would be interested in taking an 8-week speech program, at the end of that, hopefully maybe you can say, well, if you've enjoyed this, you could potentially just keep going and become a member of our club, and then so if you can add 3 or 4 people that way and just keep doing it a couple times every 6 months or so, keep doing that, keep adding more people slowly as you chip away at it. That can be a way to do it as well.
Okay.
I could assist you with Speechcraft, Mark.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Be very helpful. Now, I'm just curious, are there any other... We've heard of have started to mail into club president in the Dark Toastmasters, for anyone here that's not familiar. We've started to embark upon a couple of I guess maybe creative avenues. One is that we've decided we would like to visit a different club every month, just to kind of see how they do things, maybe grab some ideas, and just kind of see what a really engaged club looks like. We just went out to Leduc at our last meeting, and we were quite impressed with the turnout. And one of the other things that I'm curious about, are there Toastmasters groups out there that do events other than Speechcraft? And I ask this because as I was putting posters up the other day, I had a restaurant owner ask me if we would put on a presentation for the staff at a daycare, of all things. So I was quite surprised to get asked to this, but basically they're struggling with frustrations, and I mean, dealing with kids is one of the most frustrating things in the world. So me and the president, I brought it up to him, and we thought we might try to put some kind of presentation together, because him and I, by profession, we're both managers, so we know the ins and outs of dealing with frustrating people. That's just part of the job with employees.
And there's lots of things in the Success Leadership series that are kind of already built. Like when I did Art of Effective Evaluation, I mean, there's other things like that that you could probably present to outside groups.
Okay, well, that would be helpful to explore. We'd like to do it. We think it might be a good way to galvanize some interest into our club.
Yep.
If we put on a successful presentation for them, then word of mouth spreads.
There's tons of different things that clubs try and different things they do. Like, if you've got local service groups, go out and do presentations to them talking about what Toastmasters is and what your organization does and how you can help them. Like, what's the value add to them? I know
what do you mean by local service groups exactly?
Like your kinsmen or your Rotary clubs. Go out and just offer. They're always looking for speakers, so just offer to go out and talk to them about what Toastmasters is and what it has to offer. I just drove out. The reason I was in Lloydminster last week was because I went out there to meet up with the Alberta Construction Safety Association and do a lunch hour session talking about what Toastmasters was and what we do. And it was purely just sort of a get out there and get the face of Toastmasters in front of a group like that. They literally had us on the program for half an hour, and an hour later we're still talking. And it wasn't me talking, it was them asking questions. Because once we told them what the program was and how it worked, they were just full of questions.
Glenn?
Don.
Don, how's everyone tonight? Just want to add something to. Yeah, just trying to add something.
Is now exiting.
What?
No, I'm still here.
He's still here. Okay. Somebody else exited.
It's my wife. She was on the other phone. Just one thing I want to add, that there's a lot of good ideas floating around, but when there's two of you that feel that you're quite confident and you can represent Toastmasters, really be cautious about who is your group, who is your audience, and prepare a presentation to that audience and to their needs. Maybe you should ask a few questions about really what they're struggling with and look through the information and slant it to that audience that you have. Be very concise, very clear, because one of the worst, things that people catch on to is when somebody goes and they're not prepared for the presentation and it just goes sideways. So know when to go in, know how to go in, know what to ask for, be very specific, and know when to leave and to follow up. Very careful, be professional, and you will make headway. And sometimes the best advertising is just to get on our feet and start visiting people, but make the initial contact, get in there, but find out who your audience is and present for that audience.
Okay.
Hello?
And now when you talk about a presentation going sideways, are you talking about kind of the Q&A session?
Well, the thing is, you're maybe presenting to, you mentioned somebody that's working with young children. If you start presenting them to talking about, say, a student group or an adult group, their needs would be a lot different than these people that are dealing with the students. So find out what they really want. What can Toastmasters do for them, and go down that road? Because if you do not know your audience, they're going to tune you out.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, make sure you speak to their needs and what you perceive they need. So, if I go out and talk to a Rotary Club, I'll typically talk to them a little bit about what Toastmasters is about, and then talk about how the skills that you learn there can be, translated into the community, and how you can use them to become a stronger community leader. And that's the kind of stuff that might resonate with them, because that's really what they do, right? They're involved in the community. Kinsman Club, same thing. They're very community focused. One of the things that actually came to light here last summer was that Kinsman is actually looking at working a partnership to do speechcrafts with Toastmasters clubs. So if you got a Kinsman group locally, and approach them about maybe doing a speechcraft, and then see if you can convert some of their members into members of the Toastmasters club, and just by showing them the value of, if their members are more confident and more comfortable speaking with the public and being public leader and community leaders, then it's good for their group.
So when you talk about doing a partnership with Speechcraft, are you talking like they have members that are interested in taking part in administering it, but aren't exactly members of a Toastmasters club?
Yeah, well, they've got, apparently what's happening is down east is the Kinsman group down there, or Kinsman Canada is actually looking at, launching a program encouraging clubs to, work with Toastmasters clubs to put on a speechcraft within the Kinsman club, right? And again, it's all with that target and that idea of helping them to improve their skills so that they can be more engaged with the community and help out more, right? So if you can do that and get your foot in the door with a group like that, and then convert some of those people into Toastmasters as well, that helps you and it helps them and everybody. It helps everybody.
Hello,
Okay.
Glenn?
Mm-hmm.
Glenn?
Yes.
Hello. Hi, this is, I'm calling from CACO Toastmasters. What we did one year is we had a Toastmasters 101, where we were able to go to the library and we just had members from the various clubs present what a Toastmasters meeting was all about. and we had them involved in doing table topics. We had an open and discussion time. So that might be one idea that Mark might want to do.
Yep. Yeah, that's another thing you can do is work with your local library and put on programs there. They're always looking for things as well. So, a demonstration of what Toastmasters is all about, it can be one thing.
This is Arlene, again, the CACWA Club. I personally was approached by the adult programming librarian. She said people would like a program on getting over the fear of public speaking, and therefore another presentation at the library, free to everyone, was from the Better Speaker series. Unfortunately, we didn't gain a member, but we did have exposure to the public.
Yep. Yeah, get exposure, help, you never know, somewhere down the road you might get somebody that will contact you and become a member because of that. I mean, you might not reap immediate benefits, but if you're doing that kind of stuff all the time, it just becomes something that, it has a bit of a snowball effect and eventually might trigger some people to say, hey, I should go check this out. Again, it's all about getting butts in the seats, get a guest in the door and then show them a good time and follow up with them and make sure that they understand that they're wanted and that you see them as valuable additions to your club, and you'll get them, right? You get them as a member.
Glenn, we've had that here too. We've put on we've attended trade shows, and we've seen members show up 6 months later.
Yep.
Or prospective members.
Yep. Don, you had something else you wanted to put in?
Yeah, just briefly. A lot of times when we get involved in doing a presentation, we really hammer the Toastmasters program without really considering the people that behind this that we're speaking to, that these are all transferable skills into not only their profession, their workplace, but at home, in their community, and everything they do. And we need to bring that forward so we can personalize it for them, that they're taking something home for themselves, that they can help them as individuals. So don't forget that concept as well, that it's not just all about rah-rah Toastmasters, it's about our lives and how it can benefit us. It all transfers in everything we do. Whether I can mention the community, the workplace, at home. I think we need to bring that home.
Yep. Bring it home. I think you have to help people to realize that they're making an investment in themselves. They're making an investment in building skills that are transferable. It's not just all about showing up and doing speeches for the sake of doing speeches. It's about building confidence. It's about building the ability to be a more effective communicator and ultimately a more effective leader, and taking those skills to your workplace, to your community, to your home, to your church, wherever you can employ those.
Okay. Yeah,
right.
Kind of creating value for the audience.
Yep. It's 7 minutes after, or 8 minutes after the hour, so we're kind of over the time that we had set aside, but this was a good conversation, so I'm glad people stuck around. Hopefully you got some good material out of this. I've been recording this, so I'm going to try and upload it onto YouTube and make the link available so that if other people want to listen to it, they can as well. But thanks for attending, and look forward to hopefully seeing some of you attend some of our other webinars. We're going to put on another one in a week or so. I think I was going to try and get it put together this weekend to put on one on how to build a new club. It's a different crowd than you guys, but we'll be putting on a series of different webinars. So if you've got any things that you would like to see in terms of webinars, please let us know, and we will do our best to get something together and get the word out and put it on. All right, good night, and thanks for attending, everybody.
Thanks for putting it on.
You're welcome.